This narrative revolves around pivotal choices that irrevocably alter the destinies of key characters. Immerse yourself in this compelling saga, bracing for unexpected plot developments and deep human feelings. Witness the scene as waiters and kitchen crew manage a din, moving amidst tables and arranging cutlery single-handedly. At one corner of the table, Frank Walker observed fellow patrons enjoying their moments, some pausing for strolls or phone calls. Beverages and coffee were distributed, maintaining the festive mood, yet Frank was preoccupied with a puzzling message from an anonymous server. This note hinted at a potential danger from Mark Lalia, who supposedly intended to win over Frank's spouse. The revelation caught Frank off guard, and upon rereading the note, he noticed his spouse dancing with Lelia yet again. This incited concern in him, especially when they vanished from sight for the second time. Initially intending to intervene, Frank hesitated as the music ended, noticing them exiting the dance floor. Encouraged by this, he resumed his seat, expecting Lelia to guide his wife back. Instead, they converged at Mark's table, engaging in discussion with him and his companions. Soon after, Lelia departed, and his wife, after bidding farewell to Frank and expressing her affection, headed towards the restrooms. However, Frank suspected something was off about her statement regarding the restroom visit, noticing her pause and declaration of love implied a different purpose for her departure. Without delay, Frank rose and followed her, only to find Lelia and her companions, as warned by the note, rising from their table and obstructing his path. Weekly, Frank Walker navigated complex issues for numerous organizations by flying to various countries, fixing troubled businesses and institutions plagued with administrative, operational, or financial issues. Often, he encountered arrogant and domineering high-ranking officials who climbed the ranks through manipulation, deceit, bribery, and coercion. Daily, he dealt with stubborn managers and executives who mistreated and intimidated employees, boasting about their ruthless tactics. When Frank proposed changes impacting people's jobs and well-being, he frequently faced resistance, harassment, and even threats. Despite receiving threats from a drug cartel for his role in moving U.S. manufacturing firm from Mexico to Alabama, Frank persisted, and the transition occurred successfully. Proficient in his field, Frank flourished in challenging situations involving selfish, ambitious, merciless, and dangerous individuals. Frank excelled in handling such situations, so when Mark Lalia and his group challenged him, Frank effortlessly shifted the power dynamic, making them feel uneasy. They had never been given such straightforward consequences for their actions until then, and they quickly retreated from him. With Lelia's followers no longer hindering him, Frank pursued Brooke. When he caught up, she was close to the rear exit of the establishment. "Brooke," he called out. She seemed not to hear or choose to ignore him, continuing her walk towards the exit. Increasing his pace, Frank closed the gap between them and asked again, "Brooke, where are you going this time?" Brooke stopped, turned to face Frank with a frustrated and curious expression, questioning his presence there. Noticing her, Frank understood that her behavior was unusually distant and clearly annoyed that he had followed her. "Brooke, what brings you here?" Frank inquired. Brooke hesitated before addressing Frank, starting to say, "I wanted," but stopped abruptly. Frank gazed intently at her and asked again, "Where are you going, Brooke?" Brooke averted her gaze from Frank, realizing the situation should not have transpired. He shouldn't be present. "Frank," she started, then paused to consider what to reveal. She realized lying would be pointless. She needed to disclose the truth. She had to tell him where she was headed, though it would make her uncomfortable and distress Frank. Earlier that night, Brooke unexpectedly bumped into Mark Lalia. Upon leaving the restroom, she passed by his table. He recognized her, rose politely, halted her, introduced himself, and initiated a short conversation. Afterward, Brooke moved toward her table to reunite with Frank and the rest of the group. As the festivity neared its zenith, the musical ensemble arrived and began their initial performance for the evening. Not long after the musicians started to play, Mark Lalia approached the guests' table. Given his status as a local soccer star and sports legend, everyone was elated by his presence. He was friendly, introduced himself, shook hands with all the guests, took some selfies, signed autographs, and then invited Brooke to dance. Initially taken aback and refusing his offer, Brooke found Mark insisting politely. Encouraged by the other attendees and with no objections from Frank, she eventually accepted his invitation. Unsurprisingly, Brooke felt apprehensive as Mark led her away from their group to the dance floor. Yet, once there, Brooke discovered that dancing with Mark surpassed anything she had ever anticipated. He was young, handsome, courageous, a talented athlete, and a skilled dancer. During their dance, Mark's touch resonated with her favorably. He held her in the way she preferred, and he conversed in a manner that pleased her. He expressed sentiments she enjoyed listening to, captivated her, and from then on, she regularly accepted his invitations to the dance floor. As the night wore on, after several dances and growing intimacy, her attraction to him grew stronger, definitely turning into a physical desire. Towards the end of the night, he led them from the dance floor to a secluded spot where he embraced her, kissed her, touched her, and expressed his feelings for her. He suggested they go to his house for privacy and tranquility to get to know each other better. He vividly painted a picture of how they would spend the night together, intensifying their physical bond, assuring it would be an experience she'd never forget. Enthralled, Brooke contemplated Mark's proposal as she sat amongst Frank and the other guests. The idea of abandoning Frank at the party to follow a virtually unknown Mark to his home tugged at her heartstrings, but the prospect of being with him excited her greatly. She acknowledged that this attraction to Mark represented a departure from her loyalty towards Frank. Though other men had caught her eye before, their appeal never extended beyond casual allure. This evening was exceptional. She craved Mark's affection and yearned to succumb to the present moment. Yet, she grappled with the regret of betraying Frank's trust and broken promises. To justify her choice, Brooke sought a persuasive explanation, one she could rationalize morally and believe that Frank might understand. She chose to leave with Mark because he was not just a celebrated athlete and hometown hero, but also possessed an allure and integrity that captivated her. Brooke saw Mark as embodying a romantic ideal, and she found his offer to her enticing. She anticipated Frank would view it as a unique adventure for her and approve of her decision to explore this relationship with Mark. Though she knew he might be disappointed, she felt certain he'd understand given their friendship and partnership. He wasn't just her spouse, they were confidants and equals. Yet, at heart, Brooke acknowledged that her desire to join Mark was stirred by his claim of possession, an impulse she found hard to resist. She chose not to miss this thrilling opportunity, reminding herself she was more than Frank's partner. She was a woman with desires of her own. With determination set, as the birthday celebration concluded and everyone returned to the venue for more festivities, Mark approached their table to ask Brooke to dance once more. Despite Frank's obvious displeasure, he repeatedly declined Mark's requests for his wife's company. Cleverly evading her husband's objections, Brooke agreed to one last dance with Mark, mentioning her affection for the song. Grateful, Mark thanked Frank for his understanding before guiding Brooke towards the dimly lit dance floor corners. There, he inquired if she was prepared to leave. She chuckled in agreement, openly conceding to him. As the dance concluded, Mark guided her back to their table to discuss their exit strategy. He comforted her about safety and pledged to address any concerns Frank might have, relying on his promise. Brooke made her way to the rear exit, ready to depart with him. However, their plan was foiled when Frank unexpectedly appeared at the back door, revealing a loophole in Mark's strategy. He prevented her departure, wanting an explanation. "Brooke, I need an answer." "Where are you headed?" Frank demanded to know. Gathering her strength, Brooke responded, "Frank, I'm off with Mark." "Are you leaving with Mark?" Frank asked calmly. "Yes, I'll be joining him," she confirmed. "He extended the invitation," she added. Remaining collected, Frank questioned why she was visiting his residence instead of meeting somewhere else. "Frank, this isn't the right time to discuss it. I'll contact you later to explain my actions, but for now, I have to go," she said. "Mark is expecting me," she explained further. Despite her attempts at evasion, Frank kept his cool and obstructed her exit, refusing to accept a delayed explanation and demanding immediate clarification of her intentions. "Frank, please avoid causing a scene here." Let me go first, then I'll clear everything up, Brooke implored. Oh my, Frank, let's not make a spectacle out of this situation. Frank, you need to clarify what's happening now, Frank demanded forcefully. Confronted by Frank's demand, Brooke grew defensive and replied, Frank, I don't take orders from you. Step aside and let me pass. No, Brooke, you are my wife, and you're not leaving without explaining your behavior, Frank countered. Recognizing Frank's persistence, Brooke comprehended that she needed to disclose her plans. With a trembling sigh, she began, Frank, I understand how appalling this seems, and I can hardly believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to Mark's for the night. She hastily added, but Frank, it will only be for tonight, and he'll bring me back tomorrow. Frank remained silent for a moment as he processed Brooke's revelation that she intended to spend the night with Layla. Brooke remained quiet as Frank confronted her. So you're not going to spend the night with Layla, but rather be intimate with him, she confirmed. Are you attending a sleepover or planning intimacy with him? Frank inquired. Brooke avoided eye contact, gazing at the ground instead. Tell me honestly, are you planning this with him? Frank pressed further. Still, Brooke remained silent until finally admitting, yes, I am. She admitted to her plan to be intimate with Mark. The hallway fell silent before Brooke looked up and saw the puzzled look on her husband's face. Frank, she asked, what thoughts are going through your mind? Frank Walker was a man who rarely showed surprise or shock, but his wife's revelation left him troubled. Even though he had read a warning about this, for a brief moment, he lost his composure. Brooke asked, what are you contemplating, Frank? Frank responded to her question, saying, I'll share my thoughts with you, Brooke. He continued, I find this absolutely unbelievable, downright crazy, that's what I'm thinking about, he exclaimed. This statement took Brooke aback because she had never seen such anger from Frank during their time together, and it alarmed her. Oh dear God, Frank, I'm sorry, said Brooke. Why, Brooke? Why are you doing this? Demanded Frank. Frank, please, let me explain. Although it may seem absurd to you, just hear me out, requested Brooke. I'll listen, he agreed. Brooke explained, it is common for women to dream about a romantic encounter with a celebrity or someone wealthy and famous. Frank interrupted sarcastically. Let me guess, Mark Lalia is your fairy tale prince or knight in shining armor, Brooke pleaded. Please, don't joke about this. This is every woman's fantasy. Mark isn't just any man, he's extraordinary. He's a true gentleman, a star, and a celebrity. She yearned to realize the dream every woman envisions, so she asked Frank, her husband, to demonstrate his affection by granting her this experience. In response, Frank found it hard to suppress his feelings in this extraordinary circumstance. Therefore, tonight you'll visit Lelia and share intimacy with him, he proposed. The following day, he'll bring you back home, and we'll carry on as a contented married couple, as if the encounter never transpired. Is that your proposition, Brooke? Frank inquired. It's not an affair, it's merely one night, she clarified. Indeed, tomorrow I'll return, and my dream will have been fulfilled. I shall be content, and you will be content because you supported me in this endeavor, and we'll move forward, she promised, hoping he would trust her. However, upon observing his response, Brooke recognized that the events were not progressing as anticipated. So, you are choosing to be intimate with your charming prince, whom you view as superior to me, he declared. Ouch, Brooke, that really stings. He questioned, does this mean I'm ordinary, less than a real man? Absolutely not, Frank. You are extraordinary, undoubtedly a real man, she emphasized anxiously. Then why did you say that? He inquired. I'm not saying you're not attractive or capable, is that it? Brooke looked away. There's more to it, she stated. What's the problem then? Do you feel uninterested in me? Frank asked. No, no, Frank, you're exceptional, she reiterated. But again, he persisted. I'm outstanding, yet you still desire someone else, he claimed. Yes, she conceded, her eyes still downcast. So tonight, you admit that the person you're drawn to is Mark Lalia, he declared, as she confirmed, still avoiding his gaze. So you've chosen to spend the night with Mark Lalia immersed in passion, he summed up. It's not about love. I don't harbor feelings of love for him. She declared confidently that she would reveal a private moment with him and live out a desire many women harbor. However, she clarified promptly, "Frank, I'm not leaving our bond. You are my husband, and I won't forsake what we share. Tonight, though, I won't be with you. Instead, I'll be with Mark." Frank sighed deeply. "Why, Brooke? Why do you think I should accept you sleeping with another man and then resume as if it never happened?" she was asked. "It's because you've always shown me an open heart and have consistently valued my feelings, wishes, and needs with thoughtfulness," she replied. "Please, Frank, I entreat you, let's avoid unnecessary drama," she pleaded. She conveyed to her husband that, understanding the significance of spending the night with Mark for her, he should maintain composure and behave maturely. "Am I capable? Can I handle it?" she asked him. "Make it clear to me," she pleaded, "how I'm supposed to accept that tonight you'll be in Mark Lavel's bed, and he'll return with you, having spent the entire night together. How am I supposed to confront tomorrow knowing this happened? How can I look at you knowing you shared yourself with someone else?" She sought clarification on how she should deal with the situation. "I don't have an answer for you," she said, "but I hope you can find a way to understand and move forward with our lives." Aware of his disappointment, she inquired if he could comprehend the importance of this experience for her. "Brooke's proposition," Frank noted, "seems to expect me to overlook my dignity regarding your affair with Lelia. However, this isn't just a passing romance. No, I don't plan to casually accept it, Brooke. What I'm asking is for you to recognize my feelings and needs, something you should do because of our love and the bond we share, one that's unique and profound. This experience could be rare and special for me. Brooke, I want you to understand is what I'm telling you. Frankly, it's becoming increasingly evident that you underestimate the gravity of your actions and their impact on us. It seems you're ensnared in a dream woven from your encounter with Lelia. Brooke, what is the term for a man whose wife is with another man?" he inquired, giving it some thought. Brooke pondered over an answer. "Correctly, Brooke, the man was called a cuckold, one whose wife engages in relations with another man for pleasure. Nevertheless, I won't allow you and Mark Lavalier to make me a cuckold," he stated firmly. Tears glistened in Brooke's eyes as she confronted Frank. "So you won't stop me?" she questioned. "No, Brooke, I will not intervene," was his response. "You are an adult with free will. The decision to proceed or not is yours alone. If you feel this action serves a purpose, then go ahead. Spend the night with him, experience what you term as love and intimacy." "I will not hinder your progress," Frank asserted. "I've made it clear, this isn't about love. I don't have feelings for him. I love you, Frank. My attraction towards Mark is purely physical, not emotional," Brooke countered. "Frank seems to understand that you are differentiating between love and physical desire." "Yes, that's correct. I acknowledge that I am with Mark due to physical attraction, but it is our love that will bring me back to you. You are my spouse, my closest confidant, my soulmate. Our relationship transcends mere physical connection. This much I know. I won't debate the distinction between love and physical attraction with you, but I want to make clear that I will not hinder your choices." Brooke gazed at Frank, wondering if he truly understood. "Brooke, if this is indeed your desire, then follow it," Frank said, though paused. "Before you leave, we are officially ending our marriage now." Brooke reacted anxiously. "Ending our marriage?" she asked. "What do you mean by that?" "I am saying that upon your exit, our marital bond will be severed. We'll remove our rings and dissolve our union. The formalities will be handled later, but in my opinion, our marriage will be over before you depart," Frank explained. Before Brooke could respond, Frank declared, "This evening, when Lelia takes you out, I'll be left feeling humiliated since you won't be my wife anymore." "No, no, no," Brooke protested. "I can't do this," she said emphatically. "We've agreed on this, Brooke." "What's your decision?" he demanded. "I'm unsure," she replied wearily. "Ridiculous." "You know what you want," Frank asserted. "You want to spend the evening with Mark Lavalier and then come back to me," he accused. Tears streamed down Brooke's face. "Are you serious? If I spend one night with Mark, will our marriage end?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," he confirmed gravely. Realizing the reason for spending the night with Mark was vanishing, Brooke shifted from fear to anger. Brooke, does it seem to you that our feelings and concerns mean nothing in this situation, as you so easily propose ending our marriage without considering reconciliation? She asked. For me, Brooke, there are some things in life that cannot be changed, such as my spouse being intimate with another man. I won't agree to a relationship where you continue to see Lelia, and then we simply carry on as if it were of no importance, he replied. So, it seems to me that my emotions, needs, and feelings are of little significance to you, she said sarcastically. Brooke, just moments ago, you left without a word, essentially abandoning me. If I hadn't stopped you, you would have been on your way to Mark Lavaliere's for an intimate evening, he reminded her. Why should your feelings matter to me? He inquired. This question left Brooke stunned. I feel deeply sorry, Frank, she replied. I never gave it thought, she admitted. Frank, you're wrong. I did consider the consequences. All that swirled in my mind was you and Lelia, the things he had planned for you, he stated. You neglected to take my feelings into account, why you left your destination and your actions, he clarified. Oh God, Frank, believe me. I didn't plan to go without telling you where I was. Upon reaching Mark's, I intended to contact you, explaining my location and actions, she clarified. Contact me. Indeed, she added, meeting his laughter. It seems you were intending to contact me while with Lelia. You left the gathering to spend time with Mark Lavaliere, so you won't be home tonight, Frank, you said. Good night and see you tomorrow. Frank scoffed, calling it heartless. Heartless, Brooke. It's heartless that you chose to leave me, your husband, your closest companion, your soulmate, to spend a night with a man you just met, he expressed. Tears streamed down Brooke's face. What's truly heartless is expecting me to accept this as trivial, she protested. She apologized, saying, I'm sorry, Frank. I didn't think. It doesn't matter now what you considered or didn't, and what you said or didn't, because I stopped you before you left, and now I understand your intentions, and you understand mine. There's no need to guess anymore, he concluded. Frank stated decisively, we must face the truth now. Brooke looked at Frank quizzically and asked, and what's the solution? She inquired. The core issue, Frank replied, is the exit, and Lavaliere is waiting for you outside. I presume he's growing restless. Frank suggested to his spouse of 12 years, the decision is yours. Without delay, Brooke declared, Frank, I won't step through that door. I refuse to leave you for him. I won't abandon our shared life for his sake. I'm not that naive, Brooke clarified to him. Frank scrutinized her thoughtfully. Weren't you ready just a few minutes ago to walk out that door with him? So what's changed now? Or is the situation essentially the same, except for your reluctance to pursue a divorce? Frank questioned. Is it possible that your intense desire for Lavaliere has simply vanished? Are you intending to wait until next week when you're in Europe to be with him? He asked. No, why would you assume that? Brooke protested, raising her voice. Do you intend to be untrue to me while I'm away? He persisted. No, no, no. I have always been faithful to you. I could never betray you. I love you, she asserted loudly. Earlier tonight, you were on the verge of being unfaithful. If I hadn't stopped you, you would be betraying me for the second time, Frank reminded her. The truth hit Brooke hard, and she was suddenly faced with the reality of her actions towards Mark. Oh my goodness, no, 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 she exclaimed. What happened? He asked. I'm not sure, Frank. I'm completely confused. I can't comprehend why I thought it was acceptable to go with Mark, believing it wouldn't hurt you or upset you, she confessed. Frank remained silent, but his doubtful expression didn't escape her notice. Brooke admitted to you that she was not honest with you. She explains that Mark approached her at the table, persistently expressing affection for her, even dancing and kissing her. Despite this, she didn't resist or push him away. She felt compelled to leave with him, believing it was the right choice, but now regrets it deeply as she realizes it was a significant mistake. Brooke apologized sincerely while tears streamed down her face. As she spoke, Frank considered a note he had been given by the waiter and handed it over to her. Take a look at this, he proposed. Brooke perused the message, then fixed her gaze on Frank. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "The server brought it during dinner," he answered. "Is this merely a ruse he uses?" Brooke pondered. "That's what it says here," Frank clarified. Brooke appeared stunned after reading the message. "I can't comprehend it," she commented. "He singled you out from the crowd and lured you in." "He deceived you," Frank explained. Brooke reread the note several times. "Was everything he told me just for amusement?" she questioned. "Yes, every word was merely a joke," Frank affirmed. Brooke felt shattered. She understood that she had been the target for this week's prank, a reward to gratify everyone's desire for married women. Perhaps it was Debbie last week. Maybe it will be Sandy next. But this time it's me. Brooke admitted her mistake in the heartbreaking revelation that she had put her marriage at risk. Brooke told Frank she felt sick, rushed to the bathroom, vomited several times, washed up, and emerged looking exhausted, reflecting the disarray of the night. Upon exiting, she found Frank by the door. She hurried to him, hugged him tightly, apologizing tearfully for her mistake and ignorance. Frank responded, "Brooke, Laval took you off guard, managed to captivate you so much that you thought a brief encounter with him wouldn't affect us or have any consequences. But now you realize the truth. So let's promise never to be in this situation again." As they left, Brooke noticed two of Laval's companions were still there, watching them at 3.09. Frank spoke up, requiring a chat with Laval's associates. Brooke suggested they avoid more intricacies. Unable to leave matters as they were, Frank left Brooke alone. Approaching the companions, Frank stated, "Gentlemen, we aim for no conflict." One of them advised, "All right then, adhere to my instructions. Inform your friend Laval that he was defeated today, that he's a failure. Instruct him that Frank Walker will proclaim worldwide that Mark Laval is a failure," Frank ordered. Both associates looked at Frank with dismay. "Sir, we can't deliver this message," one said, recalling their past encounters. "Do you wish to challenge me or him?" Frank asked. "Sir, we seek no conflict with you," the other replied. "Prudent choice," Frank responded. "One man picked up the phone to convey my message to Laval," Frank instructed. "After departing, I advised him to avoid any public appearances." Laval's anger was evident in his response as his friend cautioned against hasty decisions, and then the call ended. "What did he say?" I inquired. "He threatened to kill you," one man answered. "Understood," Frank replied. "Frank, on my honor, I promise never again to let any man come close to me," she declared. Frank looked at her momentarily, then responded, "I hear your resolve. When we socialize as we did tonight, I will help you keep that promise. I should have stopped Laval and claimed you earlier, but I didn't. It was a shared fault among us, all my failing, yours and Laval's for pursuing a married woman. Brooke, I forgive you and myself, but not Laval, and I'll deal with him later," Frank said. In response, she expressed her gratitude for his understanding, but suggested ignoring Mark. Since they wouldn't meet him again, and he wasn't worth any complications, she stated. This puzzled Frank, as Laval almost ruined Brooke's marriage. He wondered why she didn't want Mark to face consequences for his role in Laval's scheme. Frank agreed to think it over. Next, he asked, "Shall we go back to the party?" "No, let's go home," Brooke replied. "Definitely, let's just leave for home," Frank consented. With that, they left through the corridor, re-entered the restaurant, and then Frank, along with his two friends, escorted Brooke out of the restaurant and bar. On the street, Frank gave the parking spot to the valet, and they, along with several other pairs, waited for their car. During this wait, an SUV sped towards them, stopping abruptly before them, and the passenger window lowered. Inside was an angry Mark Laval. "Brooke, you said you'd join me, so come on, get in the vehicle," Mark shouted. "She won't accompany you," Frank responded. "I'm not talking to you, old man," Mark retorted back at Frank. "Come on, Brooke, let's leave now," Mark persisted. "No, Mark, I can't join you tonight," Brooke replied. "Brooke, come here and get in the car, let's go now," Mark shouted again. "She won't accompany you. You lost the game, you're a loser now. Leave this place, loser, and let us be," Frank said. Being called a loser in front of a crowd, who were likely his supporters, immediately enraged Mark. Mark shouted, "I'll demonstrate who the true loser is," as he exited his SUV. Frank cautioned the crowd to maintain distance, anticipating the situation might escalate. He approached the driver's side front of the SUV and encountered Lavalier brandishing a substantial semi-automatic pistol. Enraged by losing Brooke and the subsequent public shame, Lavalier was uncontrollable. Recalling a spectacle in the Masai Mara, Kenya, where he witnessed a conflict between a lion and hyenas over the lion's prey, Frank assessed Lavalier's actions. In this scenario, Lavalier had pursued Brooke relentlessly, intending to take her home for his pleasure. However, before he could execute his plan, Frank intervened and saved her. Now, much like that lion, Lavalier was determined to reclaim her, disregarding the means necessary, even if it meant eliminating Frank. Lavalier declared, "Brooke will be joining me, or I'll eliminate you if you interfere." Frank stepped back, now about 3 meters away from Mark, hands raised, palms forward, fingers splayed in a defensive yet non-intimidating posture. "Drop the gun," Frank requested. "You've disrupted my mission, and I'll terminate you." "Lay down the weapon to prevent further conflict," Frank suggested calmly but firmly. "I'll demonstrate who's in jeopardy." "I'll kill you first, and then go after your spouse," Mark warned, pointing the gun at Frank. Immersed in his rage, Lavalier didn't notice Frank's stealthy movement of his right hand into his pocket, where he kept a Sig Sauer Micro compact semi-automatic pistol loaded with 8 rounds of Hornady critical defense ammunition. 1 round was chambered and 7 were in the magazine. As a licensed owner of the SIG pistol, Frank was proficient in its defensive handling. With years passing since his last battle, but possessing prior military encounters with direct hostilities, Frank found himself facing a dangerous situation against an armed and hostile Mark Lavalier. Memories of past conflicts resurfaced, providing him the required response for this critical, life-threatening predicament. Firmly gripping the pistol in his pocket, he decided to end the confrontation by shooting Lavalier. The imminent threat from Lavalier's weapon and closeness warranted a lethal response on Frank's part. Having made up his mind, Frank managed to calm Lavalier down and reduce his agitation. He took deep breaths, focused, and devised his strategy. With ease, he pulled out the pistol, pointed it at Lavalier, and fired 2 precise shots in quick succession. The pistol's handling required precision, and the entire action had to be completed swiftly to avoid potential retaliation from Lavalier, a situation Frank aimed to prevent. Focusing on Lavalier, Frank drew his weapon, and just then, 3 quick gunshots rang out from behind him, to his right. Simultaneously, Frank saw Lavalier's camera click as a bullet hit him, followed by Lavalier collapsing to the ground due to unexpected gunfire. "What the hell?" Frank exclaimed, turning to see the shooter still aiming their handgun at Mark. Regaining his composure, Frank confronted the shooter. "It seems you've just taken action. Lower your weapon," he said. "He was planning to kill you," the shooter responded, lowering the firearm. "Yes, that's what he threatened," Frank inquired. "Who are you?" the shooter asked. "I'm an off-duty officer, and I'm responsible for security here," they replied, hurrying towards Lavalier. "Thank goodness you're here," Frank expressed his relief. "Yes, I'm grateful to be here as well," was their response. Frank and the security guard huddled by Lavalier, who groaned in pain from 3 gunshot wounds. "What happened?" Mark gasped. "You were shot at. Stay calm," Frank ordered. "Did I get shot?" Mark asked. "Yes, you were shot," Frank verified. "Who fired at me?" Mark demanded. "I did, Mark," the officer admitted. Mark looked at the officer. "Marjorie," he said weakly. "Yes, Mark," she replied. "Why, Marjorie? Why did you shoot at me?" Lavalier panted, gasping for breath. "Because you were about to kill this man," Marjorie explained. Mark breathed heavily and was losing a lot of blood. "Oh God, it's so painful. Help me," he pleaded. "I've called the ambulance. They're on their way." "Stay here and hang on," Marjorie instructed. Lavalier gasped for breath. "I didn't mean to kill him. It was just a joke," Mark wheezed. "Pointing a gun at someone and threatening them is no joke," Marjorie retorted. "Marjorie, you comprehend it was just a joke," he whispered weakly. "Mark, When will I need to remind you that your joke could endanger you? She responded. I grasped it, but it was merely a jest. I was merely joking, he gasped. Oh God, I'm so cold. Why am I shivering? Then he looked at Frank and begged, Sir, please, I'm terribly thirsty. Could you bring me some water? Frank motioned to the crowd to get water for Lavalier. Lavalier was losing a significant amount of blood, and Frank understood that even if paramedics arrived promptly, there would be no hope of saving him because he had lost too much blood. For a short while, Lavalier continued to beg for aid, but then weakened, falling silent due to blood loss. A few moments later, his breathing stopped. Frank checked for a pulse, checked again, but found none. He was gone. Mark Lavalier had passed away. It was after 11:30 p.m. After being allowed to leave the restaurant and bar by the authorities, Frank and Brooke, along with other witnesses of the altercation and shooting, were interrogated by law enforcement detectives, special agents, internal affairs, and an assistant prosecutor. They recounted their dealings with Mark Lavalier, and Frank endorsed the off-duty officer's decision to shoot Lavalier, stating publicly that he had saved his life. Following a night that began with a birthday celebration and ended with their involvement in the murder of a local sports figure, Frank and Brooke were on their way home. They remained silent for a while until Brooke broke the silence. Frank, she said. Yes, he replied. Do you regret not finishing him off? She asked directly. Yes, Frank admitted. Brooke contemplated her swift and indisputable reaction and sensed bitterness in her voice. Frank found himself discontented, enraged by the incident with Lavalier ending with a female security officer executing the action. When Mark confronted them outside the restaurant, Brooke believed this moment represented Frank Walker's challenge, and she foresaw that it wouldn't turn out well for Mark Lavalier. Known for his youthful brilliance, inflated ego, volatile temperament, and armament, Mark was a stark contrast to the experienced corporate strategist Frank Walker, adept at undermining significant figures. Infuriated by this grown man engaging in juvenile behavior attempting to seize his wife right before him, Mark Lavalier could not escape the consequences. Aware that Frank possessed a weapon and deliberately lured Mark into a situation where he might lose his life, Brooke understood the risk involved. Informing Mark Lavalier that he lost their game and calling him a failure only served as folklore, and ultimately, Mark fell for this trap, which sealed his fate. Consequently, Brooke was convinced Mark Lavalier was already doomed before he even stepped out of his SUV. Watching the conflict between the man she may have loved and her spouse left her deeply distressed because she believed herself to be responsible for Mark's downfall. If he hadn't chosen her, and if she hadn't agreed to accompany him, he would still be alive. However, fate played a strange hand, as an off-duty police officer fatally shot Lavalier, thinking he was safeguarding Frank's life. This act unintentionally kept Frank from facing the repercussions of trying to elope with his wife, but it also saved Brooke from learning that her husband was the killer. I'm glad you didn't kill him, she admitted to him. Why? He asked. Because I'd rather it was the officer who did, she replied. Were you referring to the police and media? Frank inquired. Yes, indeed, she replied. If I had been involved, both the police and the media would have attempted to sensationalize the event. However, it would have been a clear-cut instance of self-defense. He behaved menacingly, displayed a firearm, and endangered my life on numerous occasions, standing barely 3 meters away. Consequently, I would have been justified in employing lethal force to protect myself in such a scenario. Regardless of the opinions of the police and media, he had made his intentions clear. Yes, but the media would investigate and question your decision to kill instead of wound him, she acknowledged. After all, it's their job to ask questions, speculate, and provide criticism. However, the truth is that he was armed with a deadly weapon, posing a grave threat. Even if injured, for my safety, self-defense would have left me no choice but to aim for a fatal blow, he argued. Ah, she said thoughtfully, considering his words. Regardless of who took his life, it will still create headlines in the media. It's my responsibility, Frank confided. They'll accuse me, she admitted, to which he agreed. Indeed, they will. Prepare yourself for the attention we're about to receive. Our lawyer can offer some support, but only up to a point. Understand that the media is likely to portray his death as being linked to us. We might encounter legal challenges and conflicts, but don't worry. We are prepared to handle them and will come out on top. Remember, he manipulated you, harmed us, and threatened me, making us the victims, Frank explained. He then warned her, noting that their beloved South often elevates figures like him to hero status. Here, such individuals are rarely criticized. Therefore, in the media's eyes, he is innocent of wrongdoing. Initially, only the sorrowful story of Mark Lavalier, painted as a victim of a vengeful spouse and killed by a security guard, will fill the headlines. However, the authentic account of Mark Lavalier will eventually surface, dampening the media's enthusiasm for his scandalous life story, marked by his affairs with married women. "I wish it would just disappear," she said. "It will in time," he replied. For a few moments, they drove without speaking until Frank posed a daring question about her possible regrets over missing an intimate encounter with him. Surprised and offended by the question, Brooke gave him a look of disbelief at his audacity. After some thought on how to respond, she firmly declared, "No, dearest, not at all," which was exactly what Frank anticipated hearing. A simple no would have been enough and seemed genuine. The prolonged quietude and the glance in her eyes, accompanied by an overly serious nod, affirmed his suspicions. He recognized she was contemplating her lost enchanting encounter, trying to hide her sadness from him. Nevertheless, her stare, tone, and choice of words gave her away. However, Frank was not taken off guard, for he knew the exchange had revived and broken the belief that she was only a spouse. She was an individual with the liberty to find pleasure elsewhere than her husband. As they danced, during their dance, Lavalier conversed with Brooke about desires usually unmentioned, even among spouses. Brooke listened intently, and his words sparked her intrigue. Convinced her that the best method to delve into forbidden desires was through a companion who offered complete openness, candor, and freedom, a partner with no emotional ties, an expert in indulgence, leading her in uncovering sensual facets of herself. This set the stage for deception, and Frank understood it. He perceived that she had become amenable to intimacy with other men, despite her previous commitment to abstain from such interactions. This was merely a strategy to escape her present situation. When Frank stopped her from leaving with Lavalier, he detected a shift in her voice and observed it in her actions. Her behavior suggested readiness for closeness with another, although she wasn't prepared to act on these inclinations at that moment. However, this was only temporary. With all these facts known, Frank admitted he could never trust her again. On their way home, he contemplated his ability to endure his mistrust towards her and accept the possibility that she might one day pursue another man. Brooke likely would seize such an opportunity. This narrative is filled with tension and unforeseen turns, forcing us to consider the repercussions of our choices. It resonates deeply due to its emotional intensity and challenges us to ponder the delicate balance between truth and deception, as well as our desires versus moral values. Right now, the next story. En route to work, yesterday's dinner conversation with my spouse lingered in my mind. It wasn't the first time she raised this topic, yet it seemed to be recurring more frequently. I was perplexed as to why she repeatedly brought up this subject and why it appeared crucial to her. She inquired about the number of women I had been with prior to our commitment and if I ever contemplated them or fantasized about them during intimacy. It was evident that there could only be one response to this query, a definite and resolute no. Over the past 5 years of marriage, my wife and I have established a robust relationship based on trust, respect, love, and friendship. Our union is everything I ever desired, a balanced blend of all that truly mattered to me. We both boast thriving careers, a delightful home in an admirable neighborhood, and a connection I deemed indestructible. My name is William Harrison, but you may address me as Billy. I'm fortunate to possess the resources and leisure for a luxurious vacation, indulging in exquisite wine, food, and entertainment. My wife Molly and I share a passion for discovering new destinations and savoring life's joys. Standing tall with blonde hair and blue eyes, my Nordic Irish heritage occasionally stirs up my temper. However, since school, I've mastered controlling my anger, recognizing that words hold more power than fists. I take pride in maintaining good physical health and prioritizing self-care. As a child, I was consistently active, playing football and hockey throughout the year and dedicating numerous hours to weightlifting in the basement. Despite my hectic routine, I make time for running, participating in an adult soccer league, and ice skating on the pond. My wife Molly possesses a natural allure, characterized by sparkling eyes, flawless complexion, and captivating smile. Her charisma draws people to her and invites them to open up around her in any setting. Molly is an exceptional listener, showing deep care for friends and colleagues through focused attention. Her captivating aura draws people in, often initiating conversations bordering on flirtation, yet she skillfully steers clear of inappropriate subjects. Regardless of the attraction garnered by her beauty and vivaciousness, Molly never succumbs to being insignificant. Standing tall with golden hair, sparkling blue eyes, and a physique that commands attention, Molly is coveted by both men and women. Her most striking characteristics are undoubtedly her long, toned legs and sculpted hips. She dedicates 4 to 5 evenings weekly to the gym, preserving their flexibility and definition, finding enjoyment and tranquility in exercise. I find myself frequently unable to resist the impulse to touch her as she passes by, a response she appears unfazed by. When I reflect upon it, Molly's character seems almost ideal, particularly for me. Our minor dispute arises from a single recurring issue. Molly is seldom argumentative, but once she forms an opinion, it's steadfast, particularly when facts or clear evidence are scant. This stubbornness can make it challenging for me to change her mind after a decision has been made. We got married shortly after graduating from college, having been together for the last 2 years of our university days. It's fair to say that before we tied the knot, Molly had limited sexual experience. However, during high school, the summer that followed, and even the first 2 years at college, I had a more adventurous phase, aiming to be with numerous women. At 19, I was fortunate enough to start a romantic relationship with an older divorced woman. She was well-versed and fervent in the delights of love, imparting crucial insights on satisfying women and revealing techniques to assist them in achieving climax. Her tutelage enabled me to prioritize my partner's gratification, ensuring that I derived pleasure only after ensuring she was wholly fulfilled. Molly inquired about my ability to satisfy her, which I elucidated through valuable lessons gleaned from past relationships. Despite her admiration for my skills, she couldn't suppress her envy of the diverse partners and experiences I had encountered. In my professional life, I served as a mechanical engineer at Abbott Labs, where I was involved in designing and testing injection molded components for medical devices, including ventilators, infusion pumps, and respirators. This role offered both complexity and satisfaction, providing me with a lucrative income and ample leisure time to engage in my hobbies. Presently, I am refurbishing a Winnebago B-Class van that Molly and I intend to utilize for week-long expeditions along Minnesota's northern Lake Superior coastline, as well as to the mountains and seaside. A wealth of adventure awaits us. Molly, a seasoned chartered accountant, previously held a distinguished role in one of the nation's top 5 accounting and consulting firms. Her position offered a satisfactory income, manageable stress levels, and occasional business travel opportunities. Among her duties was accompanying junior accountants during company audits to ensure thorough evaluation and adherence to the firm's customer service and reporting standards. Over the past month, Molly has made several trips with a new colleague named Nick for work. After completing high school, he embarked on a 3-year quest to become a financial controller. Initially enamored by his outgoing and self-assured demeanor after their initial journey, Molly subsequently fell quiet about him. As my engagement with my project expanded, my eagerness to travel with Molly swelled, yet I couldn't dislodge the sense that her enthusiasm paled in comparison to mine, which troubled me. Upon embarking on several brief trips, it struck me that Molly would eventually grow fond of them. Additionally, I observed a slight shift in Molly's behavior towards me. She appeared less jovial, sociable, and companionable. Nonetheless, our intimate bond endured, and there were instances when Molly arrived home from work late and ardently proposed intimacy. The last occasion this transpired, I detected an increased level of desire in her. It was evident that something stirred her. After engaging in a passionate lovemaking session following a taxing day at work, I descended to prepare dinner while Molly retired for a shower. While preparing dinner, I sensed tension between us. Upon Molly arriving at the table, I chose to explore the issue. In the meantime, Molly was unwinding under the shower's warm spray, still savoring the remnants of our recent intimacy. Beneath her tranquility lingered feelings of guilt and apprehension. She couldn't shake off the recollections of her shared moments with colleague Nick. Lately, he had been pushing for a dinner outing and dance, which had escalated their friendly interactions into inappropriate, flirtatious ones for a married woman. Despite knowing she was encroaching on uncharted territory, she couldn't suppress the fact that she was deceiving herself. She found herself captivated by this clandestine relationship and the allure of intimacy with another man. She acknowledged her strong physical attraction towards him and had already made a mental commitment to engage in an intimate relationship with him. Molly reasoned she merited the choice she made. I must expel this fixation from my mind and concentrate on my marriage, she pondered. Billy had numerous intimate partners prior to cohabiting with me, yet I'm convinced he wouldn't betray me. I won't betray him either, but I chose to spend the weekend with Andrew. I need to work out how to discuss this with Billy. I adore him and would never wish to cause him pain, so I will be truthful with him. It's only once, just an affair. It's crucial for me to resolve this issue and progress in my marriage. Molly continued her contemplation. If Billy truly cherishes me as much as he believes, he will be receptive to this discussion, and together we can surmount any obstacles, growing even stronger than before. I cannot abandon this optimism, although a part of me fears that it might merely be wishful thinking. With determination, I waited for Molly to enter the kitchen where I was preparing shrimp salad, cornbread, and pouring wine into glasses. Taking a deep breath, she eventually spoke. There's something important we need to discuss, Billy. Let's be honest with each other. I love you, and I know you love me. Let's face this together. I also have something to say, but go ahead. I responded. Molly's words seemed a bit foreboding, causing me to ponder how many relationships had been altered for the worse following such statements. Don't worry, Billy. It's nothing serious. This is beneficial for us both. I find it difficult to express, but it appears that something is amiss between us lately. You haven't been as affectionate or open with me as you usually are, Molly started reflecting. Haven't we just experienced passionate love? I asked, surprised. Billy, that's not what I meant, she replied, perplexed. Given our discussion, what triggered such strong desire for me that it seemed like you were eager to remove my clothes? I teased playfully. Molly's demeanor shifted, and there was a hint of protectiveness and remorse in her expression. Billy, if your discomfort lies with the intensity of my love for you, then perhaps that's an issue for you rather than me, she responded defensively. Immediately sensing her defensive posture, I countered her, noticing the hints of worry and remorse in her eyes. Can't you see? Can't you tell me the truth about what's happening? Am I justified in being concerned about you? I asked. Molly felt a pang of guilt as she recognized that the conversation had taken a turn for the worse. She knew she needed to regain her composure to have a productive conversation with Billy. Billy, I apologize sincerely. That's not what I intended to convey. I need to explain what's happening to you. I want you to recall that I love you and our life together above all else, she said. Molly expressed that her relationship with you holds significant value, and she confesses her deep affection for you. However, her words have sparked worry in me. Could it be that you are involved romantically with someone else? Are there signs of infidelity I've missed? Molly asked me to advance. She questioned Billy about the absurdity of such an idea, asserting her unwavering commitment to his trust. She stressed the importance of listening and understanding as she prepared to share something serious. Once she finishes, feel free to inquire and discuss further. Molly reiterated her devotion to you, envisioning a shared future children, old age, and always standing by your side as your wife. But there's something challenging I need to disclose, so pay close attention. Do you recall when I mentioned Nick, my work companion we traveled with? She disclosed that she had lunch, met, and dined with someone else, and acknowledged this could appear suspicious. However, she wishes to clarify it is not an affair or infidelity. Although she may have overstepped boundaries by not informing her about the other person's presence, she guarantees no ill intentions. She admits their interactions were flirtatious and loaded with subtle implications. However, she maintains she does not feel romantic feelings for him. This behavior seemed playful but innocent until he disclosed his desire for intimacy with her. The individual is younger than her by 7 years, very attractive, and in excellent physical condition, which left her mysteriously captivated. Molly confessed these sentiments, causing a bout of anger within herself. She questioned whether she had abandoned her current relationship for him if affection blossomed, or if this confession was her way of disclosing the truth. Upon reflecting on her words, Molly recognized they did not fully convey her actual feelings. Molly confided in you, Billy, that she hasn't been involved with anyone, including Nick, and her affections are solely for you. She clarified that Nick is merely a young individual she can't develop romantic feelings for. Predating Molly, her romantic experiences were limited. At times, she regrets not having the chance to explore more before our relationship started. She admits wishing she could have experimented as you did prior to us falling in love. The thought that this man she is attracted to might desire an intimate relationship with her is troubling. Today at work, they were flirting, and upon returning home, she felt intensely passionate, needing your affection. Upon hearing this, my heart raced, and I blushed, understanding the potential implications of Molly's revelation. She immediately attempted to retract, saying, "Billy, I didn't mean it like that." Molly confessed her feelings, stating that while her love for you runs deep, there's an attraction towards another man. She chose to pursue an intimate relationship with him as what she sees as the final chance before they embark on a future together, building a family, careers, and so forth. She believes this experience is deserved and requests your understanding and consent. She emphasizes that she has been faithful to you and will remain so, and her respect for you remains undiminished. However, upon revealing this, Molly found you slumped in your chair, tears streaming down your face. This wasn't the response she anticipated. It was supposed to be a brief physical encounter with no emotional repercussions. Molly pleaded with me, "Billy, it's only you I have feelings for. Just you. I long to grow old with you." She attempted to rationalize her desire for physical intimacy. She vowed eternal penance if only I would grant her that experience. She swore unwavering loyalty and emphasized this was merely an expression of her affection for me. When I stood up from the table, Molly flinched at the pain and fury in my gaze. I hoped she would recognize the harm her words inflicted on our marriage and relationship. How could she perceive my compliance as a demonstration of my love for her? It was utter foolishness. "Molly, I can see through your deceit. It's all a facade. I know the truth. You've already betrayed me by engaging in an emotional affair with someone at work. You divulged private details about us and our marriage to this person, went on dates, drank, and who knows what else. For me, this feels like a breach already. Are you implying that you haven't progressed further with him and haven't slept together? Yet you believe making amends can be done by providing more affection, spending time with me, and bestowing affectionate touches. This isn't love, but manipulation," I exclaimed. "Billy, cease. This isn't a novel." No, I didn't sleep with him, but I confessed to having kissed him multiple times post-lunch. Perhaps it was the influence of alcohol, but I must admit that the allure of a new person sparked something within me. It will be a one-time intimate encounter, not an affair. I have no feelings for him. I will always love only you. But I feel compelled, and if you truly love me as I believe you would understand. "Billy, this is merely an affair, not love," she beseeched. "I can't shake off this feeling, even though it might not matter at all. I don't know what to do next, but I vowed to put things right." You exclaimed, "Molly, it astounds me that you posed such a question to me. Your actions have already caused pain by engaging in an emotional bond with another individual. Disclosing intimate details and physical interactions with him constitutes a breach of trust. The act of kissing him appears to mirror the deceit of sleeping together. I retorted indignantly. Now I comprehend my foolishness, Molly admitted. I thought our love for each other ran as deep as the ocean, but I couldn't bear to cause you harm equivalent to what you inflicted on me. I'm not sure if you understand the extent of the damage you've caused to our relationship and marriage, I expressed angrily. Billy, please cease with the melodrama. I adore you and no one else. You can rely on my honesty, which is why I must be truthful with you. It shouldn't hurt you because this predicament concerns me, not you. She replied sheepishly. It was merely a senseless blunder, she conceded. Very well, Molly, perhaps I too will find an insignificant fling, and then we shall see if you hold steadfast to this nonsense, I retorted. I rose, grabbed the keys, and made for the entrance. Billy, return and mature, Molly called out. This isn't a blunder, it will aid my growth and provide you with greater love and attention than ever. Isn't sleeping with someone other than your spouse supposed to make one better? You're delusional, Molly, I responded. I can scarcely fathom that you truly believe that. I don't comprehend how you can assert affection for me and then expect me to accept your infidelity and move forward with my life. I won't be able to simply dismiss it. If you continue in this manner, our bond is at an end. Do you grasp this? I asked, my voice tinged with bitterness. Tears threatened to spill over as I hurried to the door, climbed into the vehicle, and departed the driveway before Molly could reach me and call out, Billy, don't leave. Let me demonstrate how much I love you. Together, we could improve the situation for us both, but I drove into the night, filled with sorrow and pain, with tears streaming down my face, thinking it was necessary. This might be beneficial, I pondered. Incredible, what will I do next? Molly sat stunned, feeling a wave of despair and anxiety wash over her. How could I have messed up so badly? Why can't he grasp the significance of this to me and understand that it won't harm our love and bond? However, she couldn't deny the reality it had already transpired. They hadn't argued like this before, and Billy had never abandoned her. She had always believed in her love for him, but now doubts about his feelings for her surfaced within her heart. Reluctantly, she admitted the possibility that she might have irreversibly damaged their relationship. Regardless, she was already planning a weekend with Nick. They were to enjoy brunch, spend the day at a hotel, and indulge in ardent intimacy. The night promised dinner, dancing, and private conversations. She aspired for the weekend to be saturated with love and bonding. Plagued by uncertainties, she aimed to experience a near-intimate connection with him until their return home on Sunday evening, committing herself entirely to marriage and Billy. She was certain that he would eventually forgive her. She acknowledged his current distress and admitted that she hadn't clarified everything for him yet. She felt it unjust of him to presume infidelity from her and be so upset about her wants and passions. Her resolve was firm, believing that Billy would eventually accept the situation, paving the way for them to fortify their relationship and progress toward a brighter shared future. 2 hours later, without word from Billy, her apprehension escalated as she knew he wasn't in high spirits before leaving. She was confident he would reach out to reconcile, reuniting and expressing their affection. Yet, as days went by without any contact from him, she took the initiative. When there was no response, she left a voicemail acknowledging her remorse. Billy, I'm sorry things turned out this way and that you're hurting. Remember, I love you and all I desire is to be with you. Let's face our issues together. It wasn't just about their relationship, but also their shared future. An hour later, she left another voicemail. I'm reaching out to you now. Let's leave the past behind and focus on rebuilding our relationship. Please try to comprehend and return to me. Eventually, she moved to the nearby Hilton for the night as he still wasn't responding. She drifted off to a sleepless sleep with tears in her eyes. After spending an excessive duration at the hotel bar, I consumed copious amounts of alcohol before succumbing to sleep. I disregarded the calls and voice messages from Molly, attempting to muffle the agony tormenting me. The audacity of her confession of love and simultaneously breaking our marital vows left me in a state of shock and disbelief, which I found difficult to surmount. Her unyielding character was familiar, but this act crossed an unpardonable line with potential consequences. This error could have spelled the end of our marriage, and I knew I had to make her understand the gravity of her actions before it was irreversible. However, beneath my resolve, a lingering fear gnawed at me. Maybe it was already too late. Even if I succeeded in persuading her this time, how could I ensure she wouldn't secretly betray me again in the future? If I had permitted her infidelity, it would have irreparably damaged trust, esteem, and our union. Recognizing that conceding to her actions would irrevocably alter my feelings for her, I contemplated whether I should have consented. How long, I wondered, before she found another man? Wouldn't she harbor resentment towards me for not assertively declaring exclusive ownership? It appeared there were no favorable choices, and I started to dread this could be the commencement of our downfall. After careful deliberation, I resolved that the most prudent move would be to persuade her to reconsider and participate in therapy with me, so we could grasp the rationale behind her yearning for an intimate connection with another person. The following Wednesday morning, Molly awoke to discover Billy was absent from her embrace. She scoured the house, inspected the guest room and couch, but noticed his car was missing, indicating he hadn't returned home. This revelation left her distraught. After glancing at her phone and finding no fresh messages or voicemails, she opted to ring him, yet he failed to pick up. On the verge of hanging up, a text alert popped up on her screen from him. "Molly, I'll be home at 7 today. Please eat beforehand as we must discuss our shared future seriously." Molly gave Billy's message an exasperated eye roll. Initially irritated, she soon felt anxious. Was he suggesting they might not have a shared future? This notion unsettled her, causing a blend of dismay and unease. It was the last thing she wanted. She adored him and yearned for nothing more than to be with him. Why couldn't he grasp that? Tonight, she would need to make him comprehend. While seated at her desk at work, Nick sauntered over, his usual charisma in tow. "Good morning, beautiful," he said. "You appear kissable and huggable today. I hope we still have our plans for this Saturday. Have you informed your spouse?" "Should I be concerned?" Molly sighed. "Nick, allow me to handle Billy's disagreement. While he might not fully support this idea, it shouldn't lead to any issues." "Indeed, everything remains as planned. Our Saturday arrangements are still intact, and I can't help but feel joyful about it," she said. However, after he left her desk, Molly couldn't resist sending Billy another message. She expressed her affection and reassured him of her dedication to their future. An hour later, she received a terse, sarcastic response from Billy. "Oh, absolutely." Molly felt anger and sadness at Billy's childish behavior and the pain it was causing them both. She was certain she could mend it. She thought that, with her love and care, their relationship would heal and potentially become stronger than ever before. On Wednesday, as soon as Molly departed, I returned to the house, gathered my tools, and finished the remaining tasks on repairing the van. Installed a solar panel, connected electricity and Wi-Fi, replaced toilet cassette, filled water tanks to complete cabin work by Thursday. Engrossed in project, found solace amidst pain and sadness. Spent time online researching divorce finances and consultants, drafting future action plan. Prioritized important items, rushed to bank before return. Closed shared credit card, opened a new one under my name only. Shut down joint checking account, opened individual one using funds from shared account. Made 2-month mortgage payment for the house in advance. Next, I split the leftover sum, allocating half of it to her via check, while the rest was deposited into my savings account. With these financial matters attended to, I indulged in a beer and a burger at my preferred pub before preparing for an evening discussion at home. Upon Molly's arrival around 6 p.m., she found Billy still absent and unsure if he had returned home. Post her snack, she contemplated a more optimistic approach towards Billy. As soon as Billy came home, she rushed to him, planted a kiss on his lips, and embraced him warmly. She reprimanded him for departing without a word and expressed her worry about his well-being, urging him to keep in touch. "Billy, please avoid such sudden disappearances again without informing me of your safety. I love only you and always will. You don't have to endure hardships alone, Billy. I'm here beside you. I believed we were inseparable, but now I question that. A week ago, I never envisioned you would request my approval of your extramarital relationship and assume our life together would carry on as usual after. It's difficult to accept that you can profess love for me while simultaneously seeking permission to be unfaithful, she lamented. Billy, don't try to persuade me I don't care about you, Molly sobbed. It's not infidelity if we consent to it, and it's just a one-time act, she reasoned. Stop behaving so immaturely, she pleaded. Molly, if you want to discuss immaturity and melodrama, examine yourself. I see the woman I once adored, but now it feels like a foreign entity or influence has overtaken her. She attempts to convince me of her love, but concurrently desires a weekend affair with another man, only to resume our previous relationship afterwards. But I acknowledge it's impossible. We can never return to being the pair we once were, I responded. What if I slept with someone else and told you it was just a fling, I inquired. It's not fair, and you know it, Billy. You've had numerous sexual encounters with women in the past, while I have none. If you had done so, I would have thrown you out, and I'm unsure if I could ever forgive you, she retorted, surprised. So why should it be any different for me? Why do I expel you, and why do you think I can pardon you? I countered sarcastically as tears filled Molly's eyes, and she said, Billy, I can't envision a life without you. I hold strong feelings for you and always want to be with you. However, let's be honest, Molly, your proposition isn't genuine. Have you already made arrangements with someone else? Have you promised them that we would sleep together? I inquired. Billy, why are you twisting the facts? They're not my partner. It was just a one-night stand, she clarified. Molly shared her weekend plans and expressed a surge of passion would emerge by Monday. She emphasized that she has always relied on him as the best husband anyone could ask for, hinting at past instances. Overwhelmed by these words, Molly retreated to the kitchen with a heavy heart. She pleaded with me to comprehend her situation, her voice and eyes brimming with desperation. Billy, she implored, trust me when I say that I love you above all else. Don't let this choice drive a wedge between us, our bond, our marriage. You are my husband, my lover, my confidant, the one I wish to build a life and family with. You are everything to me. Don't let this cause a rift, she implored, leaving me perplexed and disheartened. You're struggling to grasp it, but I pledge to make an effort to comprehend and walk through this with you, I offered, extending my hand towards her. If your tale is indeed authentic, you wouldn't have shared your Saturday plans with me. This discussion seems pointless if you persist. It's ended between us. I'll return Friday night, I said. Let's share this evening, make love, and cherish each other while we can. Please don't leave me again, Billy. We need to address this. Please, she pleaded. Friday night, Molly. I'll deliver dinner around 7 in the evening, I responded. Nick will pick me up on Saturday morning. I'll instruct him to come at 11 in the morning. I want you to meet him, she urged desperately. God, Molly, are you truly going to meet him? If I find him, I swear I'll confront him. He's a cad who's destroying our marriage. Tread carefully before we meet on Friday, I cautioned. Molly, please don't depart like this. Just assure me you're all right, that this won't drive a wedge between us, she implored. Molly, I can't accept the idea of your romantic involvement with someone other than myself. If you wish to be with another person, then consider divorce and pursue any man you desire, I stated. I won't hinder you, but please realize that your demand has caused more hurt than you may perceive. I have one condition for moving forward. If you completely end this affair, sever ties with him, and consent to counseling with me to work on our relationship, then we might be able to retain what we have. Otherwise, I'm aware that our relationship is at an end. Please ponder your choice thoughtfully and respond by Friday evening, I asserted firmly. Billy, don't issue ultimatums and don't abandon me, Molly pleaded. Let's address this together, she insisted. Astounding, as always, you are, I muttered sarcastically. I exited the room and returned to Hilton for a room rental from Wednesday night until Thursday. Subsequently, I phoned my supervisor, explaining family matters, which led to his acquiescence for a day off till the week's end. Though he inquired, I declined to disclose details of my predicament. In the meantime, Molly was resting her head on the table, distressed by Billy's departure. She couldn't fathom why he was so inflexible about the situation. Despite knowing he wouldn't depart her, she couldn't shake off the fear that their relationship had already sustained significant harm. Was proceeding with her plans likely to exacerbate the predicament? Nonetheless, she remained resolute to be with Nick, driven by a longing for him that she couldn't dismiss. Ultimately, she opted for a concession with Billy, consenting to spend the weekend with Nick, yet also promising to join a marriage counseling session with whoever he selects. This decision left her in bed, burdened by guilt and remorse. As she lay there, myriad thoughts swirled through her mind. Billy meant everything to her, yet she had hurt and upset him. The whole situation seemed unbearable. Was this truly what she desired? She felt imprisoned, unable to break free from the decisions she had made. She convinced herself that it was necessary, that Billy's grievances were without merit. In the past, he had sought solace in other women, and she had remained loyal. It was merely a physical act, nothing more. He needed to relinquish his ego and move on. After Molly departed for work on Thursday, I retreated indoors and started gathering the items I intended to bring with me to the van, ensuring they were things she wouldn't notice. I visited a store to donate unworn, unnecessary clothes. I relocated tools, sports gear, and leisure items to Tom's house that didn't fit in my space. Additionally, I gifted him artworks in pen and ink created by my uncle. I believed Tom would comprehend me. We conversed over a drink at the table, and I shared my predicament and my dilemma. Tom expressed shock when he said, "Billy, you're joking, right?" He maintained that Molly wouldn't deceive you like that. "She adores you deeply," he doubted my decision, hinting at possible explanations for her actions, such as a head injury. Feeling bewildered and confused, I confessed, "I no longer discern what is genuine from what isn't. I don't know what steps to take." In just 1 week, my entire world crumbled, and it felt like I lost recognition of Molly. I cannot fathom it. My affection for her is being challenged, waning with each of her feeble explanations claiming they'd improve our marriage. "She's acting illogically," I told Tom. "Can't we just let it go?" "Perhaps you should seek counseling and move forward," he suggested. "Absolutely not." I made it clear to her that we would overcome this hurdle if she didn't deceive me. However, if she did, then I can't envision a resolution. I pleaded with her to reconsider, but it appears futile. I plan to make our Friday night extraordinary and memorable, hoping she'll finally heed my reason. "This is my final effort to salvage our relationship," I stated. "Good luck. Please inform me if there's anything I can do to aid you during this challenging period. Maybe I can alleviate your distress and offer assistance in another manner. It saddens me that you two are arguing so intensely. You served as my model for a robust and flourishing marriage, yet it appears our aspirations have crumbled," he lamented. "I never anticipated this predicament for us," I mourned. "I'm striving to resist the temptation to physically confront him," I mentioned. "However, Billy, if the circumstance worsens and you require assistance against him, simply signal me and I'll intervene." "Take your time. Reflect on it. Stay secure, my comrade," Tommy advised. "Oh, by the way, I have a new phone and number." "I'll share the specifics so we can keep in contact," I replied. "Hang tight, pal," he said. "See you soon, sibling." Later, I visited the Verizon store, purchased a new phone and number, and switched our plan to a plan under Molly's name exclusively. I then drove the van for the initial test drive, pleased with its performance. Post-interior refurbishment, replacement of license plates, and insurance, I was prepared to embark on my journey. I erased all personal emails and files from my home computer, effectively eliminating traces of my past. I notified family, friends, acquaintances, and work colleagues about Molly's choice and my response. If I hadn't managed to dissuade her, I would have informed them that she was embarking on a new journey. She might have defended herself by stating it was merely an extramarital relationship. She sought my approval, yet despite my pleas for her not to and warnings about the potential damage, she pursued it regardless. I wished I wouldn't need to write this letter, But if the situation became complicated, I wanted others to understand the reality of what transpired. Additionally, I included a voice recording made that night as evidence. On Friday, I consulted with a divorce attorney and was told that due to our similar incomes and lack of children, the proceedings should be straightforward. Initially, it was expected that property division and divorce proceedings would be fair. The main dispute arose over whether my account, containing over $200,000 in deferred taxes accumulated from substantial contributions, should be part of this division. Complicating matters was my ex-wife's participation in a defined benefit pension plan. As I had earned the money through diligent labor and did not wish to jeopardize half of it due to an unfaithful partner, I opted for a 40% tax penalty and withdrew the funds before the divorce impacted my retirement savings. I delayed this action until the weekend, holding out hope that Molly might change her mind and end this ordeal. As Friday drew near, I felt our fate, our marriage, and my emotions towards her rested solely in Molly's hands. I could only wait and pray for a wise decision from her. On the journey home, I picked up shrimp, swordfish, and Caesar salad before igniting the barbecue. I prepared a couple of bottles of white wine, stocked the fridge with ice, concocted gin and tonic, eagerly awaiting Molly's arrival from work. Her joy was palpable when she entered the kitchen, discovering my culinary efforts. "Ah, Billy, it's such a relief you're home. I've missed you terribly, and it's just not the same without you here," she expressed warmly. Upon her approach, I was pleasantly surprised as we embraced and shared a tender kiss. "Molly, why don't you head upstairs to freshen up and slip into something appealing? Bring a glass of wine with you to initiate our celebration. As soon as you descend, I'll commence grilling, and we can savor a delightful meal together. Instead, let's concentrate on celebrating our marriage today, rather than dwelling on this potentially being our final dinner," I suggested. Molly expressed her disappointment over your doubts about our relationship. "I've made it clear countless times that my love for you is sincere," she said, frowning slightly. She stated that this issue was personal and did not concern you. "For now, let's postpone this discussion," she suggested. "First, let's share a shower with wine, then have dinner, and afterward, we can proceed to the most exciting part of our evening," you said teasingly. "I hope you'll stay with me tonight, not leaving me anxious or concerned about your absence." She added playfully, "I will return dressed in an outfit that demonstrates my love and admiration for you." As she went upstairs to shower, she returned wearing a stunning French outfit, including a small white beanie. Her attire consisted of a tight white blouse with a low split, exposing a significant portion of her midriff. She donned a long black silk skirt barely grazing the top of her underwear and stiletto heels. "Wow, Molly, you're captivatingly alluring and simply breathtaking," I exclaimed. "I can't wait for you to see the ensembles I've prepared for our upcoming weeks together," she replied. "First, though, let's grill dinner." "I'm famished, but more so eager for dessert," I said with a flirtatious twinkle. She expressed her desire. We consumed dinner hastily, drained our glasses of gin and tonic, and most of the first bottle of wine. Unable to suppress my longing any longer, I lifted her in my arms, scaled the stairs, and gently positioned her on the bed. When she reached for my belt and zipper, I paused her instinctive move. "Today, everything depends on you, Molly," I declared. "I want to savor every inch of your body and create lasting memories of our love. Desire you to grasp fully our unique bond and why we're meant for each other. You belong to me, and I to you, my dear. Pray, make love to me tonight. Let's banish the tension of recent days and fortify our affection for one another." I murmured fervently. That night, we experienced a fervent encounter. Upon waking at 8:30 the next morning, she acknowledged the need to rise and start a new day. Nick was set to pick her up at 11 in the afternoon, which left her feeling remorseful, worried, and melancholic. Despite her momentary doubts after our ardent lovemaking, she was resolute to persevere. How could anything equal what we experienced? Yet, she was determined to see it through. Upon hearing him stirring in the kitchen, aromas of bacon, scrambled eggs, and coffee filling the house, she donned a bathrobe and ventured downstairs. "Last night was extraordinary, Billy. I envision a future with you brimming with such instances, she stated upon entering the kitchen. I adore you deeply, and I'm thankful for last night. He hesitated before responding, focusing on preparing scrambled eggs. Eventually, he turned to her and inquired if she desired something to eat. I believe I can forego food, Billy, but thanks all the same. I have a breakfast date scheduled for 11 a.m. with Nick, so I wish to preserve my hunger for it. I need to freshen up quickly and prepare myself. Could you remain here so we might bid farewell, embrace, and kiss before the weekend? She said, somewhat tense. Molly, I won't plead any longer. I merely want to ask you one final time. Are you completely certain that you can make love to someone who is not your husband? I relinquished cooking breakfast, saying this. Billy, cease it. Please. Molly replied with a look of sorrow, it's only once. I swore not to depart without bidding farewell to her. At the sight of my distress and final words, Molly's heart sunk. It felt like saying goodbye, closing a chapter, and she shivered at the thought. However, I reassured her with declarations of love. She assured me that things would get better, that this pain wouldn't last long. She reminded me of our eternal bond. Yet I was consumed by sadness. How could she be so optimistic when I was drowning in uncertainty and despair? She blushed at my comment, tears brimmed her eyes, and she hastily departed for the bathroom. Why must he always be so melodramatic? Couldn't he simply let her have this fleeting romance and move on? She was thankful for the experience and vowed to spend the remainder of her life making up for it with him. Billy was noticeably distressed by the situation, and she understood it would require effort to alleviate his distress. She was confident, though, that ultimately he would regain clarity because of his deep affection for her and their shared history of mutual care. This time would be distinct, she pondered. She swiftly took a shower, opting for makeup that accentuated her beauty, paired with an alluring yet classy dress, stockings extending to her thighs, and high-heeled shoes. She aimed to present herself impeccably. As she descended with her bag, she recognized it was 10:30 in the morning, and time was slipping away. When I saw her dressed for a rendezvous with another man, it felt like a stab to my heart. Billy, are you all right? Aren't you aware of how much I adore you? And don't you cherish me as well? Didn't last night prove we could surmount this and continue our life together? Molly's words reverberated in my thoughts. The night was intended to be a cherished memory of our marriage, but unfortunately, it didn't turn out as planned, I lamented. Billy, please don't label that night as our last together. It's unfair to make me feel guilty about finding comfort in a moment of passion. We will overcome this, and our bond will grow stronger, she countered optimistically. As she moved to kiss me, I held her tenderly, gazing into her eyes and offering solace. Molly, our evening has concluded. You chose a casual weekend affair over our marriage. Those kisses hold no significance now, I murmured softly. Billy, cease this line of thought. It's not as you imagine. This is an isolated incident, and I deserve it. You've had numerous women in the past to fantasize about, but I have nothing. I am physically drawn to this individual and wish for an intimate relationship with them. It's not about love. It won't affect our bond or my affection for you, she implored passionately. Indeed, Molly, it's merely a single occasion, I affirmed, anticipating your response. The arrival of a car and a horn blast disrupted us. Irritably, Molly cautioned, Billy, you must halt this turmoil. She proposed, perhaps I should allow Nick entry and present him to you. Perhaps then you'll perceive he's only an appealing man, not a danger to our bond. A wave of pain and fury surged within me, yet I maintained my composed tone, replying, under no circumstances let him in here, or I'll shatter his nose. Her eyes widened, her heart racing, as she tightened her jaw and balled her fists, warning that retaliation would bring immense suffering. Molly recoiled, horrified, this not being the man she recognized, not the kind-hearted soul she had cherished. Billy, please, she pleaded, trembling with fear in her voice. Please step back. Let me handle this situation, and I assure you that I'll return home safely. Together, we can overcome this. She extended a shaking hand towards him, attempting to quell the tempest within him. She hoped he would heed her words, act under reason and love rather than malice and wrath. Billy gazed into her eyes, exhibiting a moment of comprehension and regret. She nervously awaited his choice: love or hatred, forgiveness or retribution. Grabbing her belongings, she departed towards the door, briefly flashing a smile at me. However, the anguish and despair etched on my countenance instilled fear and remorse in her. Nonetheless, she bravely smiled, kissed me, and promised that starting from Sunday evening, she would be the ideal wife and companion I had always desired. With a final expression of affection, she bade farewell. "Goodbye, dear," I reciprocated weakly goodbyes as she departed. In a kitchen chair, I grappled with her departure, my tears flowing freely. I strove to halt the illicit relationship that jeopardized our marriage, but Molly seemed lost in her own realm, convinced this was her ticket to happiness. Following an endless bout of crying, I eventually rose and began packing my belongings into the van. The bedroom was where I started, noticing Molly's wedding bands abandoned on the coffee table. Swirling with despair and rage, I pocketed them, vowing to move past this agonizing chapter in our lives. After 2 hours, I had packed all valuable items. The paintings, sketches, and sculptures gifted by my deceased uncle were handled delicately, boxed up, and stowed beneath the van's double bed. My initial clothing selection proved ill-fitted, so I swiftly amended it, discarding unwanted garments into the garage bin. In various rooms of the house, I was gripped by rage and sorrow. A wedding album containing 40 images from our special day 5 years prior caught my eye. Previously a symbol of happiness, it now stirred only bittersweet recollections. Tears streaming down my face, I seated myself at the table and penned my final missive to Molly. Once completed, I sealed the letter and the joint savings and checking account checks for Molly inside an envelope, ensuring to address it clearly. The wedding album and letter were placed on the kitchen table, followed by the removal of my wedding ring, which was set aside atop the letter with a heavy heart. Preparations were made to send a notice to our friends, family, and acquaintances, scheduling it for delivery at 9 a.m. on Monday. I wouldn't be returning home then. With a final glance around, I got into my van and drove away from my old life. By Saturday early evening, Molly and Nick had enjoyed brunch and settled into the hotel room Nick had reserved over the weekend. Desiring to extend their time together and evade the dismal Sunday departure, Nick tried to convince Molly to stay both days. Upon stripping down and slipping under the covers, Molly couldn't suppress her joy at witnessing another man bare and desiring her. Eager to initiate intimacy, Nick made no delay. However, Molly asked him to slow down, suggesting they unwind and savor their time together. "We have ample hours to indulge in each other today and tomorrow. Perhaps I can assist you in relaxing," Molly proposed. Uncomfortable with this, Nick stated, "Let me tend to you." With those words, he fulfilled her desires for several minutes, albeit not as she had envisioned. He swiftly progressed to intimacy and moved forcefully. In a few moments, he declared his approach to culmination, urging Molly to participate with him. Following the event, he reclined and settled on the bed. Molly remained there, stunned by what transpired. She had barely approached climax herself and even felt scarcely any desire. Nick hastily rose and dashed towards the bathroom, claiming he required to clean up first and bring her a washcloth. As he departed from the bathroom, Molly couldn't avoid contemplating her actions and the pain she inflicted on Billy due to something that proved less substantial than she could have imagined. Seizing her cell phone from the bedside table, she swiftly messaged Billy, "I want you to understand that my affection is solely for you. Please confirm that you're all right and feel the same way about me. I eagerly anticipate our next encounter." Nick exited the room filled with vigor and hunger for more. 3 times that day they shared intimacy, yet it was only during the third encounter that she attained her peak, all through personal exertion. Postward, they ventured to dinner where conversation was strained, yielding no emotional or physical connection. The charm they once felt had seemingly dissipated. Following the meal, they opted for dancing, but it resembled a dance with a relative rather than a lover. The potent attraction she held towards Nick appeared to dissolve. Despite Nick's eagerness to return to their room, she persisted in ordering drink after drink, extending the night until both were intoxicated and unsteady on their feet. Upon reaching their chamber, she hastily undressed, flopped onto the bed, turned her back to Nick, and succumbed to sleep. The following day found Nick still asleep. Awoken with a headache and body pains from the previous day's events, she heard Nick's snoring, a reminder of the regrettable decisions made over the weekend. With an intention to meet a young man intimately one last time, despite the potential repercussions, she tentatively attempted to rouse Nick with gentle touches, hoping to stir his desires. As morning broke, he awoke in the bedroom. She moistened her lips and questioned him, "Did you enjoy it, buddy?" Upon leaning in to kiss him, he recoiled and suggested, "Absolutely not. Clean yourself up and brush your teeth before approaching me again." Offended, she snatched her phone and vanished into the bathroom, shutting the door. In the shower, she scrubbed herself vigorously as if banishing some unseen danger. After drying off, she perched on the toilet to check if Billy had responded to her messages on her phone. When there was no response, she phoned him and only heard his voicemail. Dejected, she dispatched a final message reading, "Billy, I adore you. Are you safe? Give me peace of mind by confirming you're fine so we can move forward. This situation has regrettably become an unwanted misunderstanding, and my affection for you remains unchanged forever. I will return home swiftly to embrace you and express my love for you again. Please assure me you are well." Having convinced Nick to share breakfast with her, she admitted, "Nick, I erred. I now comprehend that my love is exclusive to my husband, and this weekend with you has made it evident that no one can rival him in my eyes. I'm heading back to the room. I have to gather my belongings and depart straight away. I'll call a taxi. I prefer not to attend dinners or social events with you, and would appreciate if we could avoid each other at work too. I apologize, but it was a massive blunder. Molly, you pushed hard to make this happen and convinced me, but now return to your husband and forget our enjoyable moments together. The world is filled with more attractive women who would adore being with me," he smirked. "You're naive and clueless about satisfying a woman," he added. "Molly, it's high time you acknowledge the facts," she said incredulously upon reaching her room, where she quickly gathered her belongings and left. A taxi ride brought Molly home at 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Strangely, the large van that previously occupied half of the driveway was gone. She assumed Billy had finally completed it and either went for a test drive or night tour. Her disappointment over missing the first flight was further heightened by his lack of consideration to wait for her. As she entered the house, a subtle shift in the ambience caught her attention. Initially, she noticed the lack of Uncle Billy's oil painting depicting waves in Encinitas Bay of Moonlight, which was previously hung over the fireplace. Scanning the room further, she realized other artworks were also absent, like a bison sculpture by her uncle that stood on the same fireplace. A wave of unease washed over her, and she phoned Billy, suspecting he wasn't rearranging the art. Even with an empty house, she expressed her worry aloud. Upon checking her phone again, she found Billy hadn't replied to any of her messages. Panicking, she dialed his number but received an automated message stating it was no longer in service. A cry escaped her lips as she crumpled to the floor in disbelief. "My God, what have I done?" she cried, sobs cascading down her face. "Billy, why did you abandon me like this?" Steeling herself, she wiped away her tears and moved towards the kitchen. Scenes of possible events crossed her mind. On her knees, she couldn't avoid noticing Billy's wedding ring lying on a letter within their wedding album. Sinking into a chair nearby, she cautiously picked up the ring, her heart heavy with bewilderment and doubt. Her hands trembling, she opened the letter, tears streaming down her cheeks as she struggled to read the words. "Molly, this is my final farewell," the letter declared. "Although I may be a coward, I couldn't bear to face you after you ended things. I found your rings on your dresser and knew our marriage was over. You left our union, symbolized by taking off your wedding ring. By removing it, you admitted your infidelity, but weren't prepared to relinquish the freedom of a weekend away. It seemed to you that you could cheat on me and return to our marriage as if nothing had shifted. I can't comprehend how you find it acceptable to breach our vow, humiliate, disrespect me, and treat our marriage as if it holds no importance. A seemingly harmless weekend dalliance shouldn't have affected my feelings for you, but in the end, she became everything. She helped me understand that your affection for me, if it ever existed at all, was far from equaling the depth of my love for you. Molly reread Billy's farewell numerous times, struggling to accept this reality. As she read his tear-streaked pages, she saw a painful reminder of the harm she had inflicted. The sight of our ruined wedding stirred painful memories within her. She didn't offer me what I deserved and what I foolishly believed in. You have wounded me more deeply than anyone else. You ripped my love from my heart and trod upon it. The betrayal started long before the physical act, when you began flirting with your lover during lunch. You stepped over the boundary of unfaithfulness when you started kissing him at social gatherings, justifying it as harmless, but you delivered the fatal wound to our relationship when you believed I would accept your intimate connection. How could you believe that you deserve this and expect me to agree? If I truly loved you, I tried to guide you away from this destructive path, but you chose to disregard me. I warned you that our relationship wouldn't remain the same, but you dismissed me as an overly sensitive and unreasonable person. Over the weekend, I had a heart-to-heart conversation with you, expressing my wish to end this affair so we could work on saving our marriage through counseling, but you refused to listen. I made it clear that if you continued your affair over the weekend, our passionate moments together would be over, but you disregarded my emotions and expected me to stand by you regardless. I failed to comprehend how you could think this predicament would work for me, given the circumstances. It appears that our communication may have been unclear. I echo your sentiment. My trust in you led me to believe such behavior was out of character, but now I see it wasn't. Although my instinct was to retaliate physically, I knew it would only lead to hostility and damage our relationship. Instead, I chose forgiveness. However, if past transgressions are mere pranks, what awaits the future? When will you tire of deceit or find another source of temptation? I doubt you'd confess future instances of infidelity in our current situation, but I suspect it'll continue and trust between us will never be restored. I can't envision a relationship without trust, which you have now broken. I cannot rekindle my feelings for you, plagued by uncertainty about whether you were thinking of me or someone else during our intimate moments. The instant you departed, you dismantled the love, regard, and faith that once thrived between us. You breached our friendship and left it beyond repair. I will never find it within myself to pardon your transgressions against me, nor can I trust you any more or view you as a friend. Just as you extracted my affection from my heart, so must I excise you entirely from my life. I have settled practical matters, such as dividing our assets and making mortgage payments for the next 2 months. The check inside this envelope represents your 50% share of our joint accounts. I have also dissolved our joint accounts and insurance to move on. You will need to handle your own finances. I have terminated our joint credit cards, so you'll need to secure new ones. Additionally, I removed my name from the mortgage and signed a document transferring the house to your possession. The choice on whether to sell or reside in the property is yours, as it holds no significance for me anymore. Similarly, I sold my car and departed in a van, distancing myself from our previous shared life. I feel it's important for you to know that our actions will impact both of us moving forward. In an attempt to secure transportation and aid in my transition, I proposed exchanging your wedding rings for gas money. This decision was not taken lightly, but reflects the emotional turmoil and disillusionment driving me towards it. I undertook drastic steps to mark the end of our relationship. I damaged our wedding album and burned select images in the fireplace. I also sent emails to friends, family, work colleagues, and acquaintances revealing your infidelity and my intention to part ways with you. You have an opportunity to share your perspective before the revelation becomes public knowledge. You have the opportunity to embark on a new phase in life by acknowledging your past actions. I offer my approval for any romantic or intimate relationships you may pursue. Feel free to explore any area of study, though I advise avoiding involvement with married men due to the harm caused previously. pursue your own path to discover what led to the rejection of our relationship is now outdated. I grant you permission for a divorce, to sell your home, and relocate wherever your heart leads. The decision is yours to make, and I will leave everything in your hands. If fortune should bring me a woman who truly loves me as I deserve, then perhaps a divorce may be considered. I have chosen to resign from my job and liquidate my assets. Currently, my intention is to never cross paths with you again and turn left upon leaving this place. Additionally, I plan to begin anew and endeavor to create a memory of you. Molly reread Billy's farewell numerous times, finding it hard to believe that these words were truly coming to pass. Reading Billy's written words, she observed his tear-stained papers, a poignant symbol of the harm she inflicted. The destroyed wedding album made her queasy, and she struggled not to lose consciousness. What have I done? She pondered, drowning in self-pity and self-disgust. How could she be so selfish and reckless, forsaking the love of her life for a meaningless affair with an indifferent man? Molly crumpled onto the living room couch, submerged by guilt and desolation, yearning to rewind time. She curled up, tears streaming down her face, crying herself to sleep. The truth that she was obstinate and fixated on seeking a fresh sexual partner struck her forcefully. She disregarded all of Billy's warnings and demands, leading to the destruction of her life within a few short weeks. The repercussions of her betrayal will haunt her for the remainder of her existence. In the spur of the moment, Billy opted for an impromptu journey along the Mississippi River, commuting from Minneapolis-St. Paul towards New Orleans. The prolonged drive left him pondering over Molly and his past decision, questioning if it was right. Despite this, he recognized that he needed solitude before taking any steps. At present, the notion of being friends, let alone partners with her, seemed unattainable. If he could overcome his resentment and reach a stage where being with her outweighed separation, perhaps he would reconsider reaching out, but he felt it was unlikely. His future remained vague and uncertain. Having fallen into a sorrowful predicament, Molly had no choice but to endure shame and distress due to her imprudent act of engaging in intimacy before her loved ones. She recognized that none of them would comprehend her actions or aid her in any manner. In attempting to defend herself, she found herself incapable of comprehending her own logic, let alone expressing it to others. She was forced to acknowledge the stark reality that the affair would bring forth repercussions. She had been blind in thinking this wouldn't impact their relationship. Now she was confronted with the dreadful awareness that her action had devastated her marriage and annihilated the only affection she had ever experienced. Recognizing the extent of her selfish narcissism and folly, she knew she must accept responsibility for her actions and how they affected both herself and Billy. It was evident that she had lost the esteem of her loved ones as they withdrew from her. Seeking reconciliation, Molly reached out to Billy's closest friend, Tom, and requested information about Billy's whereabouts or contact details. Molly implored him to convey her message of love, apology, and remorse for his infidelity within their marriage, thus acknowledging and assuming responsibility. The woman was prepared to make any sacrifice to rebuild their relationship. She sought to communicate her affection and yearning for him. She admitted to her transgressions and was resolute in changing the situation. Molly pledged to uphold their marital vows and remain loyal to him, yet she received no response from him. The woman ceased communication with him and concentrated solely on work and home, anticipating his eventual return. She remained steadfast in her faithfulness to the relationship and patiently waited for its reinstatement. Approximately 6 months following Nick's ordeal, a dreadful incident ensued. He was assaulted upon returning from a nightclub in an intoxicated state. Molly and Billy contemplated the events that had transpired, struggling to comprehend how they could have believed everything would be all right. 4 years elapsed, and Molly persistently awaited Billy's return, yet it never materialized. One ordinary morning, as Molly prepared to depart for work, a stranger accosted her, inquiring about her identity. Once confirmed, the man presented her with an envelope labeled, "You have been served." With no tears or expressed emotion, Molly simply stood there, offering a faint smile, effectively ending her marriage. A decade after their separation, Billy was reveling in life with his younger wife, and had recently welcomed a newborn son into their world. The joy of fatherhood filled Billy as he cherished the newfound happiness and affection in his life. As for Molly, her existence underwent metamorphosis. She wed a prosperous man yearning for an heir. However, Molly was unable to conceive again. Molly endured a miscarriage, and her husband, Max, threatened that if she failed to bear an heir, he would abandon her. Following another opportunity for Molly to conceive and become a mother, Max remained patiently hopeful. Struggling, Molly maintained a healthy lifestyle, participated in sports, and when she became pregnant for the third time, their joy knew no bounds. However, this elation was short-lived. In the third month of her pregnancy, Molly suffered another miscarriage. A month later, Max and Molly chose to part ways in divorce. It seems as if Molly was deprived of the pleasure of motherhood. Whether it's karma or destiny that unfolds, it's left for you to decide.